I'm Samuel J. Redman. I'm a professor of history in the Department of History at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where I also direct the public history program. And most recently, I'm the author of a book called The Museum, where I explore the history of crisis at American museums. I became interested in that topic during the time of the pandemic. I noticed that I had a couple of weekends in my life where basically everything was closed. I was hanging out at home, and I started to become interested in the 1918 influenza epidemic, commonly known as the Spanish flu. And what I started noticing is that almost no one had written about how the 1918 epidemic impacted museums or other cultural institutions. And it turns out there was a pretty big impact at that time, but a lot of the newspapers and annual reports that I started reading actually talked about World War I as being the critical crisis moment of that era. And once that took place, I really started going down a rabbit hole and thinking about how museums have fared in crisis moments in the past. The Great Depression, the Second World War, crisis of the 1970s, and episode called the Art Strike in New York City, and the 1980s and 1990 culture wars, as well as most recently crisis moments in museums, ranging from the September 11th terror attacks to fires and floods and environmental catastrophes, which seem to be happening faster and faster with global climate change. So I became interested in how museums responded to episodes of crisis, and of course that has carried forward from 2022 into the present day, where museums are again dealing with a crisis scenario, specifically with the White House attacking the integrity of the Smithsonian Institution in particular, but also with major funding cuts to the Institute for Museum and Library Sciences, IMLS, and threatened funding cuts to the NEH and NEA and other organizations that help fund museums. So the argument of the book is that museums can often build back stronger. I look at the Smithsonian fire that took place during the Civil War and how the museum rebuilt itself after that, hiring new staffers, electrifying galleries for the first time so that you could actually, see the objects that were on display, to the crisis of the Great Depression, where museums were able to use the New Deal to bring in new workers to help update exhibit halls and bring in new collections of objects to the museums across the country. So there's actually a lot of story here in terms of how museums have wrestled with crisis moments over the course of the 20th century. And I think that these stories speak to how cultural institutions more generally can navigate unpredictable times and give us a better idea by reflecting on this history of how we can better respond to challenges moving forward.